I'm so glad that you've joined us. And if this is your first time joining us, come on in and make yourself comfortable. For those of you that join us on a regular basis, I am so glad that you do. Thank you so much for always supporting all of our guests. I know they love hearing from you, and I appreciate always your comments, your questions, and your suggestions of guests to have on. And today, as you always know, I'm always excited for every one of my guests, but today's a little bit more special. Not that everybody isn't special, but they are. But today's story is going to not only touch your hearts, but it's going to inspire you, empower you. And when I had an opportunity to reach out to this gentleman and have him share his story, it's just something that is just going to fill your heart. I'll tell you a little bit about him. He was held hostage back in 2017. Now he has taken his situation and he uses it to focus and be an advocate to support other hostage families and other people that maybe have gone through this similar type of nightmare. He is a speaker. He is inspiring. He is a wonderful person. I'm looking forward to having him share his story and have you identify with him and learn how to get over any and obstacle that you can deal with. Thank you so much for joining me today, Jose Pereira. How are you?
Hello, Mickey, and thank you for having me in your wonderful program.
Well, I'm going to let you jump right in and start with your story because this is all about you and you have got such incredible information and insight. So I'm going to let you jump right in.
Well, as I said, in November 2017, I went through this hostage situation during there was in November 2017. I was here in Houston working in the oil and gas, and I received a phone call, and it became to be a hostage situation, unfortunately, during 5 years. So I went through that situation during 5 years, and well, uh, that process went through a lot of things because we were kind of political pawns of the situation that was happening in that moment here in the U.S. And well, it really became to be a dramatic situation. Then we decided to overcome it, and we decided to do what today we are. That we are a coach, a leadership and resilient coach, and I also begin to talk about this situation. So this is basically what I'm today doing, and I'm a strong advocate for the hostage community here in the U.S. too.
So, I mean, if can we back up? I want to start right from the beginning because this is pretty uh I don't even know what word to put on it because I can't even fathom the thought of being taken as a hostage. So, if we could back up a little bit to start from how the day transpired and what happened that day, and then we can kind of skip ahead for the other things.
Yeah, I was working in the oil and gas here in a company called Circo Petroleum. I was the CEO of that company by that time, and I received a phone call in the middle of a movie in a Saturday, and they asked me to go to a meeting in Caracas. And when I went to that meeting, it began to be a settlement. The meeting began to be a settlement because they were having some issues between that country, Venezuela, and the U.S., and they took us as as political pawn. We get caught in the crossfire between the geopolitics between the U.S. and Venezuela. It was a big deal. For us, really was a big deal because we never thought that we could get caught in the middle of the situation, and nobody never thinking in this, and that's why today I talk that anything in your life, any adversity in your life comes like that, appears, and nobody's prepared. Nobody's never prepared. So when this situation happened, the first thing that we did was something wrong. We begin to deny it because you never think you can get really in a situation like this. But at some point, you have to take the decision that how you decided to face these things. So that's why I always talk that you have to be focused in the situation and see what really is happening. So we really, when we knew that we were in the middle of a geopolitical thing, because even it went even worse, because the U.S. ambassador was recalled after 4 months. So the situation began to be very, very serious for us. And at some point, because we were really at the beginning isolated almost during 1 year, at the end we decided to survive because we really wanted to come back to our families. So we created, I call it like a survivor plan, because after 1 year, we were 6 guys. So I was myself with my 5 top executives. So I was the president and the 5 vice presidents. So we're literally the board of a company. So we after 1 year, they decided to put us together because the pressure was being really serious, and we created like a survivor plan. And let me tell you, that survivor plan today is the basis of what is my coaching program. My coaching program I created based on that survivor plan.
Well, I mean, the situation that you were in, like you said, you're thrown into something that you weren't expecting, and now you've got to be able to reframe your mind and take everything you have within you to be able to get you through that situation. And I'm assuming the accommodations weren't exactly friendly where you were at, to be able to deal with this. Just like anything else that we deal with, you're going to put yourself in a situation that may not be exactly the perfect situation or plan, but what you went through is even more extreme.
Well, let me tell you, for your audience to understand, we were placed in the worst dungeon, not only in Venezuela. I believe it's one of the worst dungeons in all these communist regimes, because it's a military basement. We were in a 3-story basement, down 3-story down, totally locked. Almost 1 year without no communication. The first year I didn't have no communication. At some point, I even lost the sense of the time because I had that light 24/7 turned on, and I didn't have no watch, so I didn't know what day was. So you begin to lose the sense of time, and nobody knew, even if I was there. I didn't knew where my colleagues were because I didn't know if they were alive. So can you imagine, after 1 year, seeing the face of the people, and then you hug, you cry, and you get together? So it was really extreme the first year, a really, really extreme situation.
How long were you held hostage for?
5 years,
Five
5 years,
years. So
five
five
years.
years you had to keep yourself mentally strong to get through all this, to get back to your family.
Oh yeah.
And now I got to ask you, how did the other four uh, colleagues, how did they deal with this? Were they able to do the same thing you were doing, or did you
Yeah,
guys have your
yeah.
moments where,
I really feel very proud because I'm not talking about myself. I believe all of that did it great. By the way, in December, I live in Houston, and December 27, we received in December 23 an email that surprised us because we were invited by the mayor of Houston to go to a meeting in December 27. And when we went there, we saw all our colleagues there, and the mayor gave a proclamation. We were proclaimed by the city of Houston for our courage, for our moral courage, and they created a Citgo 6 day. So now I have my own day here. So I saw my colleagues that day, and I told them that I feel very proud because all of us did it very great. Because one of the key things in the situation is we all were cheering the other, all were supporting each other, always talking about positive things to maintain our mindset in that way. And we made it. We created this plan that we, in a daily basis, we're doing things in a very comprehensive way, and we do it during years, and we came back in one piece.
well, I mean, you definitely built a camaraderie and a brotherhood. I mean, going through anything like that is always going to pull you together, not only as colleagues, but human beings, to be able to get through something so difficult. And I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but can you kind of, because I want to lead up to why your program is so valuable, because the situation that you've been through, and a lot of people say, oh, you hear about all the time, oh, hostage, but I don't think people understand the caliber, the intensity of what it's like to be taken as a hostage. And I'm going to ask you, can you, is it possible, I mean, is it all right to ask you, could you walk us through what a day was like, each and every day for you, that you had to go through, that keep your mind strong, and what was happening?
Yeah, when we created our survival plan, let me tell you, we did things in a very structured way. We began in the morning with our breakfast. We were in a very tiny room. was a 100 square foot room. It was a closet. So we were with 3 bulk bed. So we created a plan that everybody could eat in. We had a very tiny table with 1 chair. Everyone was sitting with the table in the chair. By the way, I have the table 1 year after, because the first year I was eating in the floor. Okay, so so sitting in the chair, in the table, eating with your piece. The other were in the bed. So we did it that first. Then we did exercise. We begin to do yoga. We begin to do meditation. We begin to do static running. We begin to do cardio, push-up. We were doing like all the day on that. We begin to read, because by that time we were allowed to have books. We had a 2 or 3 hours reading session. I begin to write, because I began to, by that time, in the first year, after the first year, we were allowed to get food from our family. So our family, can you imagine the logistic, sending food from here to the US, to Venezuela? So my son had to move to Colombia, and then he began to provide me the food from Colombia. It was a nightmare of logistics, but they did it during years. So that food that I received every 2 or 3 days, when I returned the trash cans, I smuggled letters there. So I began to do that, and I kept doing it during 3 years, smuggling letters. I smuggled almost 1,000 letters, and that's the base of my book that's going to be out in at the end of this month. It's called From Hero to Villain, the true story of the Citgo Six, because it became like my memoir. So we began to do that. We began to have fun. We began to play domino. And we began to pray and read the Bible. So all these things, doing it on a daily basis, we created like a routine. It was like a daily routine in a daily basis. We did that almost during 4 years. And one day they opened the door and said that we were released because we came back through a prisoner swap. And I'm here.
Wow. That first year though, being by yourself, how did you keep yourself strong going through all of that? Because I can see, the being together with people, that definitely changed your mindset. Having the ability to journal, that absolutely helps your mindset, and then having the routine, because that's what we kind of thrive for anyway. But that first year is the most crucial and probably the most trying. So what was it like in regard, how did you keep yourself strong in that first year to be able to get through that?
The first year, unfortunately, I didn't have the opportunity to write, because I was allowed to do it after 1 year. But when my first letter, because my letter was like in pieces of paper, I was writing what I was feeling. I was throwing all my memories. When I came back and I began to revisit that, because as I said, that became the basis of my book. I began to revisit those first letters. The first letter I remember was written December 30, 2018, 1 year after I was there, because I arrived November 2017, and my first letter was 13 months after, December 30, 2018. That first letter, I was really talking about that first year. And when I went through that, and I reminded, my memories went to that moment, the first days were really, really terrible. I was having even, suicidal thoughts. I was thinking to take my life, because I felt that I was going to be left behind. But for some reason, and I believe that they are part of miracle of God, I begin to think in my family. And one day I said, you know what, Jose, this is not going to break you. You have to make this, because you have people outside there that love you and they're waiting for you. And that made me change my mindset. So I began every day. I was all the day thinking. 1 year, every day thinking, because I didn't have no TV, no radio, no book, no nothing. I was alone thinking. And I began to think in my family, and thinking in the moments that I went through them. I thinking in family trips, and thinking in food, thinking in things, and that kept me sane. And as I said, when I saw my colleagues after 1 year, that of course was a game changer. Was a game changer because now we were together. But I survived that year. I heard the voice of my wife after 10 months. The first time I heard her voice was a 1 minute call after 10 months. One day they opened the door and said, "Mr. Pereira, you have 1 minute to talk." And when I got the phone, it was her voice. And she heard my voice and said, "How are you?" I said, "Well, I'm alive." And she told me, "Well, we're fighting hard to bring you back." So that's the first time I learned that they were really fighting hard, and they did it. My wife went 2 times to the White House and several times to the Congress, and she met with all the officials from the former government and the actual government several times. Several times. They did a lot. They even got together with another 20 families, and in May 2021, they created a movement called the Bring Our Family Home Campaign that today is one of the biggest movements here in the US. And after I came, even I began to advocate strongly for the hostage community. And I'm very proud to say that this Saturday was declared officially the hostage and wrongfully detained day, and the flag that was created by all the family was raised in the White House, in the Congress, this last Saturday. So now it's official day declared by the U.S. government, like a day like there is a day for the prisoner of war and the missing in action. Now there is a day for the hostage and the wrongfully detained. That is a movement. It's a movement because my family became part of that movement, but there are a lot of people behind that movement. There are foundations, NGO, congressmen, journalists. It's a big movement that has been created because today this is something that the message has been amplified because there are a lot of Americans hostage in the world that people doesn't know. That people doesn't know. There is a guy that has 12 years in China. There is a guy that have 12 years in Saudi Arabia. There is a guy that have like 7 years in Myanmar. There are guys that have X years in Afghanistan. There is journalists that's from Houston that have 12 years in Syria. There are a lot of people during that, and the families suffering during all this year because even some of them, they don't know if their families are alive or not. It's big. It's big. It's big, and the people are not aware about that situation.
I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad that you actually said something about this because honestly, I had no idea. I mean, you hear about it. You hear about people being taken as hostages, and either they're like you said, a prisoner swap, or they're returned, or if it's on a big political level. But like you said, if there's people out there that are being held hostages based on like you said, journalism, or if in your case it was through a company, it wasn't even anything that was due to political. You weren't even part of that. It was you were part of a Citgo, which is a gas company. So I mean, yeah. I don't think people understand that because I was going to ask you. You have such a movement and a way. Your program is to help other people, and I wanted to ask you. I was like, this sounds like this is a lot bigger than we're aware of in regards to people and families that are dealing with hostage situations.
Yeah, yeah, and the message has been amplified because the situation that now is happening in the Middle East had put more, you know, press in the media and the people because there are now a lot of American hostages in that situation in the Middle East. But this is not only their case; this is even longer. But the good thing is that this is something that is very well known. It's called the hostage diplomacy. The government, the former government, and the actual government both really have been committed to bring people back, and this has become like a national security thing today in the government. Now has this law that it's like an umbrella that protects the hostage, because one of the things is when you get in this situation and the government declares you as officially hostage and roughly detained, now you're protected by the U.S. government. Your family is protected, and there's a lot of initiative that can be done. For example, a prisoner swap is a big deal. That they had to do a presidential pardon to release a bad guy to get swapped for you. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. But now they're more they're more um, exposure because there are congressmen, there are journalists. There are several journalists that are very, very open talking about this today. So the situation today is much better than when it happened to me. Because when this situation happened to me, unfortunately, we were kind of guinea pigs of the situation. Now there is a movement. Now there are a lot of foundation working in this area, but there's still more thing to do because this can become real like a national security issue. Because how many Americans can be traveling abroad in the year? You're in a family visit, or you're in a vacation, or you're in a seminar. Normal people, because this is called the hostage diplomacy. Normal people like me or most of the guys, nobody are politicians. You get hostage because it's the passport. So what they do is they take you and they lever you. They ask for concessions. And this is something that unfortunately all these countries are applying like a copy paste. It's like a business model, they all of them apply the same technique. So all these countries, China, Russia, Iran, Venezuela, Cuba, Myanmar, Afghanistan, Syria, all these countries, they apply the same technique. When you talk with the families, even the situations are different because you're in different countries, different culture, but in a sense, it's the same technique. So that is one of the things that today I'm really talking about this in a manner to raise awareness. And my coaching program goes more to businessmen. I tackle more the businessmen because I discovered, because I come from the oil and gas, I did a lot of leadership positions. So I said, okay, Jose, you have your leadership skills, and now you went through this hostage situation that is a survivor situation, and I combined it both because leadership and resilience are so connected. And that's what I today in my coaching program, I decided to craft this. I went through and tried to put it to help business owners that sometimes are hostage in their situations. They become hostage in their situation. You have a business, but you don't know how to handle it, or you're having struggles in your business. So you become a hostage in your situation. That literally is the same. When you apply the technique, literally the same.
I love the fact that you took something so difficult and so straining and take it and put a spin on it to make it a positive and to help others get through it. And I'm looking at this and I'm listening to you. And well, first of all, thinking about the situation you were in and how difficult that was, and trying to wrap my head around it is almost impossible because you can't. You've lived through something that probably I'd say 99% of the people can't fathom unless they're put in that situation. However, the fact that you've taken that and said you could still be a hostage within your own life, whether it's through your business or what you're going through, really does have a lot of similarities. And to take that mindset and turn it around and do something else with it that can empower you is so strong, so strong. So tell me, how do some of these similarities actually correlate when you talk to people about, based on the situation you were in, coming into a business situation or even a life situation? Some people get stuck in their own lives and they don't know what to do, and they're like, you're right, you actually you nailed it with the words. You are a hostage in your either your own life or your own business. I mean, you're right, there is really no other words to put on that, and that's pretty powerful.
For example, one of the biggest problems that any business has is the communication. Communication is key because people doesn't know how to communicate, and sometimes that create this, the atmosphere in the business. We learned during our situation that we needed to be communicated. We needed to create those bonds. We needed to be, if somebody for some reason was going down, be cheering the others. And if were having any argument, any dispute, any argument, tackle immediately and move on. These things, when you extrapolate and you put in your business, are exactly the same. because the people don't know how to communicate with their peers, how to communicate with their colleagues, how to communicate with their employees. Sometimes when you're in a management position, or you're a CEO of a company, you create like a shield, and you isolate, and then you don't communicate with the people. This is something that today is one of the things I teach. I also talk about how you need to be empathic with your employees. It's so important, because one of the things that I discovered during my situation, that we all are simple human beings. You know, when I was there, at some point we were put in a place, because we were transferred to two dungeons. We were in this military dungeon, and then we went to another dungeon. I stayed with all the political prisoners, military and civil, that are in that country, like 400 people. And I met politicians, generals, human rights advocates, journalists, philosophers, a lot of high-profile people. And you know what? All of us were comrades there in the same situation, living our life, trying to survive together. And at some point, even I met their family. So they're people, because you are only people. When you take all the suits and all the titles, you are a simple human being. So this is something that I discovered, how you can meet and get with the people, being only people. This is something that any manager or any CEO has to understand. So what I have been doing is all those survival things that I went through, that for me, I said that I had like a 5-year retreat. It was, it was like a 5-year retreat. So at some point, I decided to convert my retreat in something that I can really use to help others. And believe me, when I tell the people, because sometimes you get the argument, no, I cannot do it. You can do it, because I'm here. I did it. If I did it, you can do it. So this for me has been powerful, putting that message out. And not only that, I decided to begin to speak. And my speech is based on this, how you can overcome things in the life. And my final takeaway always is that anything in your life, you can survive it. But you need to have the proper mindset and do it.
Yeah. Now, see, I when I think about this, it's like my idea of a 5-year sabbatical is not in a dungeon in Venezuela. However, there's a lot of empowerment with that, because sometimes when you strip everything away, and you take away all the other things that are obstacles, or what's going through, or what's happening, and you bring it down to the basics of what you can do, which is really within yourself. And that's where the empowerment lies. So I can see how that works. And then for you to be able to go out that and help people to understand that, going through what you went through and in that situation, I mean, nobody can look at you and go, well, I can't. It's like, what, are you serious? I was in a dungeon
That's
in
why you
Venezuela.
say, hey,
Yes,
hey,
you
hey,
can.
look at me, look at me. I'm hello.
Exactly, exactly. And I love your enthusiasm, because you took something, and I'm learning a lot too, because it tells you, doesn't matter what the situation is, how bad it is, as long as you've got the faith, the hope, the strength, the will, the courage to be able, and the mindset to
Mindset.
make those changes, then anything is possible. And that is so exciting. It really is. And what a gift you are. I mean, really, to go through something so difficult and then turn it around and go, well, let me help you out here. Let me tell you how to get through this based on the situation, and taking that situation and using it as an empowerment tool. I mean, Jose, I mean, there's no words to describe what you're doing, and the gifts that you're offering to people based on your situation.
Yeah, because if you put everything together, and I tell always the person that you're going to any situation in their life or in their business, that when you begin to think of your situation, the first thing that you get focused in what you're going on, because sometimes the people lose the focus, and then they can see the problem bigger than that it really is, or you have the solution in front and you're not looking at it. Or maybe you don't have that solution, but now you're aware about where you're sitting in. So you get focused. You need to have that proper mindset to, to change the way you look things, and get connected to the people that support you. In your business, you have your employees. In life, you have your family, your loved ones. Okay. And take care of your physical, mental health. So important, because sometimes when you're going through any situation, you abandon yourself. You abandon yourself and connect to your spirituality. Connect to the spirituality. Today, I discovered that one of the key things in any situation in your life is connected to whoever you believe. Get that connection, because there is where you're going to unleash what I said, that unbreakable spirit that everybody has inside to make any situation in your life. So sometimes that people do things that you look back and say, wow, how I did this, because you had that force to do it. You can do it. So if you are a business owner, if you're a CEO, somebody that's hearing this and having a struggle thinking all these things, and if for some reason you fail, continue, bounce back and move on. See the fails as opportunities. Because this is another thing that sometimes if for some reason we have a fail, who doesn't have a fail in their life? Everybody fails at some time in their life. So sometimes if you took those fails like an opportunity to grow, you will see the things different. So this is something that today, Mickey, really I discovered during all my process. And this is something that, for me, I went through that. I'm a life testament that is that way. So nobody is going to tell me about this, because I went through it. Okay.
Well, I think there's also a lesson here to learn that, some of the things that we think are really big are really not that big. They're minor compared to what it could be. And to dwell on something that is so minuscule, and knowing that you've got it within you and the power to change it is something that I think we need to realize also. And as you go, like you said, you keep going through and see something on a grander scale, and then knowing that you've got that ability to make those changes. I always tell my kids, when we've had losses and we've lost games, I said there's no losses. I said there's winning and learning. What'd
Correct.
you learn from it? What did you take from this? What can you do differently so we can fix whatever happened that gave us the result that gave us what we got? And it's the same thing, like what you're saying. It's like, okay, so it didn't work. It didn't happen. Maybe it went a different direction than you thought it was going to go. So what? Sometimes you find the best things on the weirdest detours, but it's the mindset that you've got to have. And for what you went through, in your situation, not knowing, not having any idea, having just yourself to depend on and your own mindset to get you through, you had everything you needed, like you said, to survive. And I think people forget that. They forget that you really have everything you need in any situation to get you through it. It's just reminding and remembering, and that's what you bring to the table with your program and what you do and who you are, is to remind people everything you need is within inside you.
And that's so true. Unfortunately, in my case, one of my colleagues, because we were six guys, that we became the Circle Six. That is the name that the press put us as. But the press never mentioned there was a seventh guy. It was a seventh guy that he didn't make it. He passed 1 year after. He was so depressed. He was alone. And today I think about that situation, that maybe he has been moved with us. The situation could have been different, but he didn't make it. He didn't make it. So you have that two stories. Six guys that decided to survive, begin to be in the worst moment, decided to make it, and we made it, because I saw all of them in December, and everybody's okay. Everybody's moving in their life. Some of them, for some reason, decided to go silent. I understand that they wanted to, have their private life. Some of them, like me, decided to talk. There is another of my colleague that also is doing it, and but everybody's okay. everybody's okay. So because we had this support system with our families, and we decided to move on with them. But sometimes people doesn't do it. So this is a very personal choice, the way you decided to overcome anything in your life. If you decided to drag down and get depressed, well, that's your choice. You have the tools in front of you.
Did you ever ask the other guys when you got together after that first year? Did you ever ask them what did they do? Did they do the same thing you did to get them through? Because I'm assuming all of you were alone. Each and
No,
every one of you were alone for the first year.
no. Let me tell you that at the beginning was really difficult because some of our colleagues were really in a very bad situation. But when we begin to help them and coach them and and get together, immediately they came back, and at the end we were all of us was really, I can tell you, Mickey, everybody that was in there with us, they were surprised how we were handling our situation. We were strong. Not only that, 1 year before I came, because the negotiation to get us released began to get more serious, and the U.S. government appointed a guy that he's an ambassador, so he visited 1 year before I came back. He did the first face-to-face meeting to negotiate our release, and he met with us like 2 hours. He had a meeting with us like 2 hours. I remember when he came back from that meeting, he told us that he was surprised how strong he saw us. He said, hey guys, I have been negotiating with other releases and all over the world, and I see people breaking. I broken. I see people down. I see you guys strong. We were really strong. We were really strong. The six, not only me, the six. So I'm proud. I'm proud how we made it.
You know, I'm looking at your situation. The first thing that's going through my head is I think some, like, and you said because of your faith, and I think our higher power and whoever you want to put on it. But I truly believe that sometimes God puts you in situations to be able to bring it out as a tool to be able to be that voice and give. And again, it's really hard to wrap my head around what it would even be like to be taken as a hostage. But I keep going back to, you have taken something so difficult and you have used it as a tool, not only to express how you got through it, but to share that insight and information to so many other people. And I can't even imagine how many lives you're changing because of taking this situation and then telling other people you can get through this. It's, you can get through different things in your life, no matter what it is, and just using the same tools that you did. I'm Like I said, the only word I can give you is you're a gift. I mean, you really are a gift to be able to offer this. And I know you said you work with a lot of other families. These families that you're dealing with now, are these people that have been returned as hostages, or are they still being held as hostages, or both? Are they still being
Yes,
held?
yeah. Let me tell you that in Thanksgiving, I was invited to do an interview with ABC because that day there was being a prisoner swap in the Middle East, and they called me to give my impression. And my first thing that came to my mind is that when you're in that situation, all the family is in a nightmare. It's like putting a bomb in the middle. So that day was Thanksgiving. So was a prisoner swap during Thanksgiving. So can you imagine that I have not talked with those families, but I can tell you that I will remember that moment forever. That then there was really another group of hostages in December 23, the day before Christmas. And this family, I know them. I know them. I have talked with most of them. And one of the guys that was released, I'm in contact with him because he wants to begin to talk also. So he asked me to kind of, give him some advice. And I was telling him that in this moment he has a gift. He was gifted by God. He's empowered with that gift because now he can be another voice because he wants to go to the Congress and can begin to talk about this. I said, hey, my friend, you have that gift, use it. Because for some reason, this today, I believe that this became a gift to share with others, and a gift that can really help others. And that's the way today I look at it, because I rediscovered God during that situation. And the first thing I did when I came back was going to my church. Today I'm very, very connected to my church. I do church service, and my pastor, every time he talk about this situation, he talks about the plan of God. That there's like a master plan for your life, and for some reason you had to go through situation in your life, and those roadblocks at the end become to be a gift, because that's what you can show to the other, how to do things. So I was telling this guy some days ago, my friend, you have today a gift. Use it. Use that gift.
And from, I'm listening to you and I'm hearing everything you're saying. And the first thing that's going through my head is sometimes the most precious gifts are wrapped in sandpaper because it's so difficult. I mean, really, that's what you have to look at. You have to go through these situations that happen in your life and go, all right, yes, so this was traumatic and it was difficult and it happened, and but it's your experience, and then you decide, what do you want to do with it? What do you want to do with it? Because that's how I've always seen it. It's like you can have all these things happen, but you can either let it, you hold you down like an anchor, or you can take it and just grow from it and blossom from it, and then let everybody else be able to experience and get and help others with it. And that's what I'm seeing in you, is you taking this difficult the gift in sandpaper, and you're going out and you're helping other people get through this, and other people that are dealing with this, the families, looking at the other end of this spectrum. I mean, so the families not know. I can't even imagine what your wife went through, not even able to know if you were alive, if she could talk to you, and every day doing everything in her power, getting up and going to Congress and going to Washington and fighting on your behalf to get you back. And knowing that, I think it's that out of control feeling, but you still can be in control by your actions, and her taking those actions and still saying, hey, failure's not an option for me. I'm going to go to Washington. I'm going to go to Congress, and I'm going to get you back with every fiber of my being to get you. So I'm going to ask you, so what was it like for your wife? I mean, what kept her strong in all of this?
Well, my wife, first, she's my hero. If somebody is talking about being resilient, she's super resilient.
I
I'm
love it.
encouraged her to write her book. I'm encouraging her to write her book, and I encourage her to begin to speak also. She's more fluent in Spanish than in English, but even we did the other day in an audio room, because today I do audio rooms in LinkedIn, and I have a newsletter too. And I did an audio room the other day, and I invited her to talk. I said, come on, go talk. We did an interview in July 4th. There is a mural that was created here in Houston with the faces of some horses. So we unveiled that mural. And that day I was interviewed by Telemundo, the Spanish
Mhm.
TV. We did an interview with Telemundo, and I gave her the talk. And she began to talk. I can tell you the journalist was crying hearing her story, because this is it is the other side of the coin, the story of the families. So I really encourage her to do it, because she can be a voice of the families, and not only the family of a hostage situation, the families going through anything in their life. Because when you're going through anything in your life, your family suffers even worse than you, because they cannot control the situation. They are there, but they cannot control the situation. So nobody talks about the suffering of the family. So that's why I encourage her to do it. And yes, she did it. She did something that for me it was totally extraordinary, and I'm gonna share here. You know, when before I came here to the U.S., we are Venezuelan born, and I lived in Venezuela several years. I began my career in the oil and gas in Venezuela, and she was also working in the oil and gas, and her father also was. So all our family were oil workers. Okay, so my father-in-law, he was a big fan of the Rose Parade of Pasadena, but he always saw it in TV every year. We did like this was like a routine. Every January 1st, we were in the TV looking the Rose Parade. When I came here to the US, we never could go because I was always busy. Never could go. Never. Well, I learned the day that I landed in US soil in October 1st when we were released. When she went to the hangar, and we were hugging, the first thing she told me is, I got the tickets for the Pasadena Rose Parade. You know what I learned? That she kept buying the ticket during the 5 years. Every year she bought the ticket, waiting me to come back. During 5 years, she bought the tickets. And then the 5th year, we went in January 2, we were in the Pasadena Rose Parade. So we went live in January 1st, 2nd, 2023 last year. So that's her. So that talks about her.
I love it. I'm going to have your wife on. I would love to have your wife on as my guest because I'd love to hear her side of the story on getting through this, and you've got children, right? You have
Yeah,
children?
my children are grown up, and as I said, my elder son John, uh, he is also an oil worker because we are kind of a family of oil workers all over. So he was working in Aruba, in a refinery in Aruba when the situation happened. And the situation in Venezuela was really terrible because in 2018, I believe, was one of the worst war ever. And all the sanctions that were imposed in the country, the people were starving. It's a big deal because today the diaspora of the Venezuelans all over the world. Here in the US, millions of people that come here. So we were in that situation that we were starving. There was no food in the country, and we were starving. I lost 100 pounds. So at some point, all the pressure that was in the press and the UN, there was a lot of pressure to get us released, and they allow us to bring us food. So my son had to travel, and he moved to Colombia. And from Colombia, he began to provide food to me, to Venezuela, during 4 years. So can you imagine all the logistic was big deal. And that was all my family doing things to get me back.
I love your family. I love the what they went through and the extremes that they did just to get you back. I mean, that you're right. That is unconditional love. I mean, for your son to move to Colombia just so he could get food to you is says a lot
That
about
was
yourself, but says a lot about him too.
it was the only way. If he didn't do it, I will not be here. I will not
Yeah.
be here.
Wow. Well, I have loved hearing your story, and I have loved being able to connect with you, and I am so grateful that you've taken the time to be able to come on and share this. But and as everybody knows, the information will be down in the links, but also be embedded into the podcast. But how can people reach out to you? Because I know you're going to get an abundance of people reaching out to you as a keynote speaker, and they want to hear your story. Plus, you've got your book, and I'll definitely want to have you back on once your book is launched, so we can go ahead and get that out there for you. So, how can people reach you, Jose?
Well, I have the speaker, the coaching link tree. There's a link tree called is Jose/I Angel/Pereira. That's my link tree. You can find there. I'm today. I belong to two speaking bureau. There's those link there. They can book me there, or my coaching is there. I do one-on-ones basically. I have sessions that can be one session, or can be a 1 month session, 2 month session, 3 month session. So I have the program, I tailor made it depending of the needs of the person. And they can book me, of course, the free complimentary call. I have my calendar there. I'm very active too in LinkedIn. You can find me in LinkedIn. I do a weekly newsletter where I talk about building resilience and leadership. And I do audio rooms also in LinkedIn. And I have my webpage that is called joseconnect.com. So you can find me or in my LinkedIn, in my webpage, or on LinkedIn, and in all the social medias too. I have my YouTube channel where I post things related to this. I'm going to leave all those links there. And basically what I do today, Mickey, is that if anybody has any event or anything in their company that they believe that I can inspire their people, I have walked the walk and talked the talk, so I can really help them with my experience. Yeah.
No, I agree. I agree. I think you are the perfect fit, really in any any avenue of your life, whether it be business or personal. I'm going to give you the last 15 seconds to share whatever you'd like to share to leave with us and to wrap this up.
Well, my book, as I said, is going to be out maybe at the end of this month. I'm going to be promoting. I'm going to do a book tour. That my book is basically my story, but what I call my legacy, because this is my legacy, and I have, as I said, my coaching program where I help business owners how they can untap their unbreakable spirit, and I do my speaking. And you can go to my social medias and book me.
And what's one thing you can leave with our circle of friends that can give them a little bit of inspiration before you?
In the life, you can overcome it. Anything. It's your very personal choice, the way you decided to face it, but you have that inner force to do it. Anybody.
Thank you so much for being with us today. I am looking forward to your book and I'm looking forward to connecting with you again. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Mickey. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you, you guys. I appreciate you. Please reach out to Jose Pereira. I'm going to put all the links down below. They'll also be embedded in the podcast. I highly recommend that you reach out to him, whether it be for your business or something personal. And what I took away from this today is that you can overcome anything. No matter what the situation is, no matter what's going on, you've got the power within you and the right mindset to be able to get through it. No matter how difficult that situation may be. Please remember the most courageous thing you can do is be yourself. Until I see you on the next podcast, take care of you. I'll see you.
Bye.